Hello, everybody. Oh boy, that's Dad good. Hey, everybody. Where are you? What are you doing? How's your Friday? Happy Friday, David! David, your question is coming up here soon. I'm gonna answer your question, which I think, I didn't read all of them very closely, but I read yours, and I'm excited to talk about it. So I have the AC on, and I have my mic just here out of frame. Is it noisy? Are you getting any wind noise? Let me know. If so, I'll turn the air conditioning off, and I'll slowly get more sweaty, and by the end of the show, you'll have the good stuff. Just me being, I don't know why that's good stuff. Also, I'm gonna be looking over here because I am not running this whole thing myself. My friend Dylan is here. Dylan is starting to edit some videos, and yes, okay, so the audio is fine, but the video is a bit choppy. Okay, encoding overload. It's doing the same thing. Okay, so that's part of, we're trying to figure out why the errors are happening the way they are. I think it's probably my computer. But anyway, so Dylan's here. He's editing videos. He's also running the computer and stuff. And then I've got an extra monitor up there, so I'll keep an eye on the chat. But yeah, I'm not just talking to myself like normal. Oh boy, what is happening? Alright, I'm doing too many things at the same time, but anyway. Welcome to Guitar Hunter, welcome to Friday. Things going on this week. I put together my acoustic pedal board, which I can show you that while people are showing up and hanging out. So, I started by taking apart this is my old electric guitar pedal board, which has been too small for a long time. And so what I did was I took it apart, I put the right Velcro. It's still funny because there's like totally piecemealed Velcro. This is just, I've put Velcro on this as I've needed it instead of committing to like a whole stripe along the way. But anyway, so on the front, LR Baggs Venue DI. Love this pedal. I've had this forever. There's something shaking around inside of this. I'm pretty sure it's the LED for the tuner just below center. That green one stopped working. I'm pretty sure that's what's bouncing around inside here. Maybe I should send that back. It works fine. It's just it doesn't show you when you're quite in tune until you go over. So anyway, then I have a monster cable in between it. I don't actually like monster cables. I don't care for them. I just had the right one that would fit in this space really well. We'll talk more about cables later. That's one of the questions. But on the other side is a Fishman tone deck. Hey, do you call this a tone deck or is this the tone DEQ? I don't actually know. I did a whole review calling it a tone DEQ, but since then I've heard a lot of people call it the tone deck. Anyway, both of these are powered on the back. I'm trying to figure out how I want to power this. So right now this is powered just with a one spot. So a 9-volt adapter goes into here, and then that covers both of them. So this is it's a 100 milliamp draw on the LR Baggs. Then the Fishman is a 200. So it's not crazy. So a daisy chain could easily handle this, but I might get a little more sophisticated with it, a little fancier. So I do have the cable ties. Everything is attached. I'm also running power perpendicular to signal chain, but yeah, so I put this together this week. Actually, I put this together the first day Dylan came by. Cool pedal board, really easy. It fits really well. I have a hard case that it fits in. So I'm thinking about powering this. So right now it's the daisy chain. I think I'm gonna get, I don't think they make the Volto anymore, the Ernie Ball, which I liked those, but I'm sure just a first generation battery thing didn't work out. So there's another one, is it Alpha Labs makes it? it's from Sweetwater. I asked my guy, Caleb at Sweetwater, what he recommends, and he said if I'm looking for battery powered, which that's kind of what I want. Like, I just want this thing, and then plug in, and you know, do a show or play at church or whatever, and it all be locked in. So, tuner, EQ, boost if I want it. And then all of that is skipping into the Fishman. The Fishman is then running my input trim. I'm leaving the EQ flat on this because I'm doing all the EQ on the LR bags. And then I'm using the chorus and the vibrato coming out of here. The other thing I'm doing is, because a bunch of my guitars now have K&K pure minis, I chop out the 80 hertz with the low cut on this, and then I send it out through an XLR out there into the system. So anyway, that's my pedal board. That's what I did this week. And hey, some questions are going on. Mike says, how's your mom and them? And Jose, hey buddy, how are you? I'm glad you're here. Evan, what'd you say? It went away last week after you closed all the other windows. That's right.
The choppiness, yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yes, the choppiness. Oh, can you close Lightroom, and you can close console?
I did not see Lightroom was open.
Yeah. So yes, I have a hunch it's my computer just not being able to send out 1080. Yes, my computer's like 5 years old now, and so I think it's time. I've been looking at the M1. The MacBook, the 13-inch MacBooks with the M1. If you have an opinion or a horse in that race, let me know. I'm not going to move to... Okay, yes.
It's
so
a little bit better here, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll keep working on this. Evan, thanks for that. I'm glad that you remembered that. Jeremy, so this is Wrecking Crew. Hey Jeremy, I recently bought the Guild Baritone Deluxe on your recommendation and video and love it. Very fun and generating some great new song ideas. That's awesome. I love those. I am counting the days before I can get one of the 8-string baritones. I think they're so cool. I'm very excited about it, and I'm glad that you got it. They're tricky to find right now. I've been thinking about doing a video recently or coming up about like what new guitars can you actually get? What are the best things actually in stock? Because you know, the guys at Sweetwater, they kind of send me a list each week, which I'm more of a used guy than a new guy, but for certain guitars, like when cool things come out and they're brand new and you don't stand a chance of getting them, you know, we'll buy some new stuff. So that's super cool, Wrecking Crew. J&S Pendleton says, check out the Tone Dexter pedal to use with the K&Ks. Simply amazing. Okay. That's awesome. I used to use a what was it called? It was the Aphex Acoustic Exciter, which it basically was like a synth pedal for an acoustic. It's weird, and it gave you like super low bass. You could do like down to 80 hertz. So if you want your guitar to sound, an acoustic guitar to sound massive, there's this guy, he was big in the Young Life world. It was this guy, PW Gopal. He turned me onto those pedals. Actually, PW, he's the one I sold that Collings for a while ago. Hey, Robert Baker's here. Robert, how are you, man? Oh, man, watch the M1 stuff. It's great, but some programs don't work with it yet. My wife got one. Okay. All right, I'll ask, because that's the same thing that Caleb from Sweetwater, my guy, said, was that, because I don't think console works with it yet. So, I don't know. Okay, but anyway, the computer seems better. We close things, I don't see the warning, but, wait, what did...
It's looking a lot better. That's been up there, so...
Okay.
Yeah. But overall, yeah, it's looking less choppy. So.
Yeah, it should be good. Okay, and what did 40 Watt Podcast just say?
So he was talking about, he said, I'll be happy when everything functions on the M1, because then I'll be able to upgrade from my current MacBook Pro.
There you go. Yeah. Okay.
And I got a question from Raphael. Hey man, after owning the Iris, do you think that they are close to the Waterloo, or what other brand?
That's a good question. Okay, they are very similar, but, okay. So if you don't know, I just sold a guitar. It was the Iris DF. So it's made by guys that their kind of background comes from Froggy Bottom guitars. They're made in Burlington, Vermont. They're incredibly well-made guitars. Compared by Collings, they're made in Austin, Texas. I would say between those two, Waterloo is they're both amazing. But Waterloo is still better in their construction. There are a couple things that they're still doing that aren't that are just better, I think. So Waterloo guitars, I bought mine. If you don't know, I've talked about this a bunch. It's a really cool guitar. Mine is a WLS. It's made in the Stella kind of style. So the Iris DF is wonderful. But it has a scarf joint on the neck, has the way they put the neck together, that's my biggest thing. And then the finish. It's an open pore satin finish. It's cool. You can pay more. I think it's like $500 more, but it gets you around $3,000 to get to a guitar that has an all gloss finish. And but very cool guitars. I think those two are really interesting, but I think Collings is doing it better. I think also it just comes from like a small boutique company starting Iris compared to, or like people that come from that ground, and it feels more grassroots and more, I don't want to say homemade, but they're making those guitars themselves compared to you have Collings, which is a giant company, not giant, but very, very big, very established guitar, and their passion project. So you have a large company's passion project making these guitars. So to me, I think the Waterloo is just a little better, but both, you can't lose with either. I think that Iris DF, the guy who got that, I mean, that's one of those that I like. That's just one of those guitars that if I had room, if I didn't already own, 5 or 6 nice acoustic guitars, I would make room for that. But it's a very cool guitar.
Next question from Zach is he needs a nylon string guitar recommendation.
Oh, nylon string. What's your budget? So I can give a couple. I mean, basically, I'm going to say about the same thing. Cordoba has a ton of really good, and I'm out of my wheelhouse. I don't know acoustics super well. Or, sorry, I know acoustics very well. I don't know classicals very well. But yeah, I think if you're looking at the Cordoba, there's plenty of options there below $500. Fender also does a pretty good one. Their CD140 equivalent, their classical is good. Takamine, surprisingly, makes some good classical nylon string. I don't know. I'm out of my... I'll come up with a better recommendation. I'm gonna put some stuff on my website in the next couple weeks of like what are my actual recommendations, under $500, under $1,000, and kind of work out those. But yeah, that's cool.
Gear Junkie 35 asks, can I piggyback a loop switcher off a second loop switcher as an amp switcher?
Oh boy, I have no clue. That's a Robert question. Robert would know that. So it's basically, yeah, can you loop a looper? Yo dog, heard you like loopers. I don't know. I'm bad enough with one looper. I don't need to loop my loops. Regan Cruz says, did you say Young Life? I used to be a volunteer leader in college and led music. Very cool to hear that you even know about Young Life. Yeah, I led, and Dylan led Young Life. So, yeah, but I thought I was going to be on Young Life staff for a while. But now I talk to a camera like it's a person. So, kind of the same thing. So yeah, I led Young Life for 7 years while I went to James Madison University, and yeah. So other questions. David says, if we have time, I'd like to hear more about the Royer R10. Let's talk about that. We'll go ahead and talk about that because it's a thing I'm really excited about and I love. So it comes in this amazing little box. This was part of my studio build out. So this is the Royer R10. So normally, most people, if you're looking at a Royer or a ribbon mic, most people, you're going to get that peer pressure to look into the 121, which is an industry standard. There's also the 122. But the R10, I went with this one because it's much more affordable. I think you can get one of these for $500. I think when I got mine, there was a $50 coupon on it. And so now they're $500. And then you get match pairs. You get, I think, $900 for if you want two that are matched. So this is it's a proper ribbon mic, handmade. It's really great sounding, really authentic to the guitar. I have a video coming out that is really interesting. Like, this sounds like the guitar, and what happens when it's a guitar that sounds muddy and woofy. I'll give you a hint. I recorded a video with my Martin D41 the other day because I'm thinking about selling that guitar and I know I'm going to take some heat for it. So I made a video kind of saying, like, is it okay to sell a guitar that you're nostalgic about? But anyway, so the R10 sounds awesome. It sounds like the guitar in the room. If you don't know, ribbon mics, they're a thin filament, kind of a folded piece of metal between two magnets. And so you have this filament in the middle that works very similar to how your eardrum works. And so they just sound like how you hear things. And what's really cool is they just make them so bulletproof. Now, the only thing you really can't do is don't run phantom power through them. Like, I have a condenser and overhead shotgun mic going now. That one has to have 48 volts. If you ran 48 volts through this, you would torch it. And it just wouldn't work. So it's very accurate sounding. So that's more about that at some point. I'm gonna do an FAQ video as well in the next couple weeks, just dealing with the questions that I get asked all the time. What was the okay? So what's that question up there? Craig's question.
Question: what's the difference between a J35 and a J45 TV?
Oh, okay. Looks like we're.
Oh, what happened?
We're pausing a little bit. Go on Chrome and let's close all the other tabs.
Okay.
So just hit escape. You do it here. Oh, click on there.
Yeah.
Sorry, you know what you're doing.
It's okay. Being funny. Okay.
Yeah, close all those.
Okay.
All right, we're closing everything that is not. Okay. So what was that question? J35 versus J45 TV, same wood, same bracing, looked on lime. So I have a video coming out with the J35. It's one of the reissue ones. Actually, no. Hold on. If you're a patron, that video went out for patrons today. It's my impressions of the Gibson Garage. So I play a J35. It's like a 1937, I think. The J35 versus the J45 True Vintage, they're very similar. Isn't a J35? No, the Advanced Jumbo is rosewood. They're the same woods, they're the same materials. I think there's binding, there's inlays that are different, but it is interesting that there's, what, $1,000 different? I think it's because people hear J35 and they think, oh, it's cheaper than a J45. And so it's just like the marketing of those two different models. I think they're very, very similar. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so there's a bunch of questions coming in. We're gonna, that's basically, let's jump into some questions that came in from Instagram, and because there are some really good conversations to have happen in here. So the first one is, what does that say? I can't read it. It's too.
I love KOA as a tone wood. It
KOA?
would be cooler to hear your opinion on it and what your favorite tone wood is.
So what are my opinions on KOA and what are my opinions on tone woods in general? KOA is beautiful. I think, was it last week we talked about, there's a great all KOA guitar made by Tacoma. They're really hard to find. I actually emailed them trying to get in touch with, there's an artist that I still love, but there's an artist that used to play a KOA Tacoma. And so KOA is really punchy and present and has a lot of punch to it. It can also have a lot of high-end. So most notably, the most common places you'll see KOA is like the Taylor, the 3 Series, and then the K22s, K24s. Yeah, KOA is a really beautiful and really great sounding tone wood. Taylor also does a bunch of them in the 3 Series. Martin doesn't do KOA very often unless they're doing like a D42 KOA. That's a pretty normal one. They do a D16 in KOA. Anyway, it's a very good tone wood. You don't see it a ton, and this is totally gut. I don't think it's super sustainable, just in the way that it's like grown and harvested and planted. I think it also takes a long time to grow, so I don't think it will be around for a ton of time. Now, with that said, it's been pretty standard in guitars for probably coming up on 100 years, 90 years. Started with a lot of Hawaiian guitars. Anyway, punchy, present, chimey, but it's pretty scooped. There's not a whole lot of mids to it. Now, other tone woods. So my favorite tone wood on acoustic guitars, I want to answer this in acoustic and electric. So for acoustic guitars, my favorite tone wood is mahogany. I just think mahogany is a really smooth curve. not overly bassy, not overly chimey, has a really good presence in the mid-range. They sound wonderful. My Paget Model 1 is mahogany, and it's really, really wonderful. Now, mahogany is getting a little trickier, so it's tricky to find like proper like Honduran mahogany, and like South American and Central American mahogany is becoming a little trickier. And so you're now starting to see what they're calling it African mahogany. Other companies will call it sapelli. Other companies will call it Kaya, Khaya. It's very ribbony, where mahogany, it looks a little more like grid-like in its structure when you get into the guitar. On certain guitars, I really like East Indian Rosewood on OMs, so like an OM28. That's a great guitar to have rosewood on. Rosewood has a lot of bass and a lot of treble. It's a little more scooped. There's not much to hate. My only issue sometimes with rosewood guitars is that they become so loud and so boomy that if you're like me and you're not a particularly loud singer, or so for me, I'm also a tenor, so it just doesn't pair well with my voice. It makes it really hard to play with and sing over. But other great tone woods for acoustic guitars would be mahogany. So this is a really beautiful flamey mahogany maple, and this is on a 2005 J185. Here, this is a really great looking, sounding, playing guitar. This is also for sale if you're interested on the website. So maple is a really great tone wood. Taylor has done amazing stuff with how they finish and brace maple guitars to make them much more accessible, because not all tone woods are the same. And so if you brace a guitar with maple back and sides the same way you would brace mahogany or rosewood, it gets really punchy, really picky, but doesn't have much sustain. So Taylor's done amazing stuff. Andy Powers, that's one of the first things that he really did very publicly with Taylor, was rework how they braced and finished their 6 series. And so they really brought new life into maple back and sides. My favorite and more obscure tone wood, let me grab this one, and this is my Waterloo. So Waterloo WLS, we were just talking about this guitar. Really outstanding guitar, really wide grain. This is a red spruce top on the top. So this guitar is cherry back and sides. And I think for me and for my preferences, cherry is the best tone wood for my ears. It's really has a ton of guts to it, has a ton of presence and sustain. This guitar is kind of out of tune. Cherry is a great tone wood. It also is really sustainable. Cherry grows really well in North America. It grows pretty quickly. You can get really great guitars out of it. Now, it has a little more like, I mean, I've heard that it doesn't take finish very evenly. It's kind of like maple, but it's a little more mellow. But anyway, it's a great tone wood. Now, let's talk electric guitars. Is it gonna bother you guys if it's not symmetrical? If there's one guitar behind me? And now there's this gap. Anyway, so electric guitars, I think, so continuing maple, like the 335s, 330s, 45s, all that stuff. From Gibson, maple is an amazing tone wood for electric guitars. It makes them bright, it makes them clear, it gives them lots of resonance. Now those guitars, most of those are laminates. Some of those, if you get into like the L5s and L7s, those are carved. The 175s. Are 175s carved? 40 watts. Philip, you would know this. Yeah, but maple is a really great tone wood for a lot of electric guitars. If you're looking at a Fender style guitar, alder and ash. Ash is a really wonderful tone wood, but ash, because there's a blight in North America now, so most American ash trees are probably going to be gone. So I think I've heard like Fender is no longer offering ash as a standard option. They're starting to drop off a bit with that. Cherry's nice to work with as a luthier. Caleb Zimmerman. Caleb, didn't you emailed me or something? We talked at some point recently. Jeremy starts playing hillbilly music. Yes. You're from Alabama, man. No, Mississippi. So, hillbilly... Redneck? What's Mississippi? I don't know. Yes. Hillbilly intensifies. Do you guys, if you have kids, you probably watch movies with lots of subtitles. I find myself like the way movies describe noises and actions is very weird, where they'll say like squelching intensifies. Anyway, Evan says, man, I've been looking for a small-bodied maple back inside jumbo style guitar for so long. Hey, I have one. Let's make a deal. It's very cool. They're cool. They're punchy. J185s are way cooler to me than J200s because J200s are just so big that they're a little off-putting sometimes. They're just intimidating. That's probably the better way to say it. Okay, let's go down here to a slide. Let's go to the next question. That's tone woods. I mean, there's much to be said about tone woods. For me, it's maple for electric guitar. Or sorry, it's mahogany or acoustic. Sheesh, my brain is not working. Acoustic guitars, for me, I would choose between either cherry is the tone wood I wish would become more prevalent, more prominent in guitar building, and then behind that, mahogany. I really like mahogany, and I think it's good you will save a bunch of money if you just give up on the peer pressure that is buy a guitar with rosewood back and sides. You'll save $500 to $1,000 pretty easy. Okay, and then for electric guitars, ash or maple is kind of my go-to. Don't use walnut. I built a Telecaster with walnut maybe 10 years ago. It was awful. It was so shrill and picky and had no sustain. Yeah, walnut looked beautiful, but was not a good choice.
William says lower end Gibson and Martin's sleepers, I guess you could.
Oh, what are sleepers from Martin and Gibson? Continuing the same conversation about cherry back and sides, the biggest deal for me from Martin is the Martin SWD GT or the SWOM GT. So these are sustainable wood. So Martin has long since committed, mid 2000s, early 2000s, they committed they were going to start building guitars that were FSC certified. So they were really strict about how these tone woods are coming about, and they're doing it in a sustainable and ecological way. And so that one's great. Also, if you can get like 90s and 2000s D16s, D16 RGTs are really good, rosewood gloss top, or the regular D16 GT. They're creeping up. For a long time, they were like $800 for the D16s and about $1,000 for the rosewoods, but they're creeping up in the last couple of years. They've really shot up since then. They're now $1,000, $1,200, $1,400, but American made, all solid, made in Pennsylvania, good guitars. From Gibson, I think my favorite, and they're really hard to find now, but earlier this year I found that Gibson J15. That guitar blows my mind. It's walnut back and sides, spruce top. It's basically a J45. It's now become the G45 Studio, with the exception, which 40 Watt Podcast, Philip, he was the one that pointed out that the new ones, they're not actually Dreadnought depth, they're triple O depth, so they're 3 3/4 inch depth, or I don't know. They're not full depth anymore. While I was at the Gibson garage, the dude sold 3 of them to 3 guys that kind of fit the same bill as me. They're in Nashville, they're with their families, they want to own a Gibson. You know, I fit all of that criteria. And while I was there, they sold it to 3 different guys. Now, they did it through some unethical is the hard. That's not, I won't say it's unethical, but they hit this guy with like, I mean, you want to own a Gibson that's made in America? Like, don't tell your wife. You don't have to check with her. Like, it's good. We got easy financing. She won't even know. So don't do any of that. Don't do nonsense. Guitars, in order for them to be good for your family, they have to first be good for your family. They have to be good for your financial plan, your family's plan, and then they fit in this place in which they're good for you, they're good for your family, they're good for your community. Don't buy guitars without your wife knowing about them. You know what's more expensive than guitars? Divorce. So, okay. J15. Yeah, J15 is a great sleeper. What other... let me see. I don't... I think, I mean, you can find Les Paul Studios for so cheap. Yeah, you can find really good ones out there. I won't say Seagulls. People are going to tell me to say Seagulls because they're cherry back and sides and cedar tops. I just don't get it. I don't know. I feel like Aaron in The Office, like when Michael gets back with Holly, and it's just like, I just don't get it. That's how I feel every time I play Seagull. And people are like, Godins are so good. I'm sure they are, but I can't get over it. Yeah. So the J15 is a full-sized 45 build. Yes. Yep. Yep. Lots of Seagull talk. My wife supports all my purchases. That's what Liam says. And then Elliot says, that's very ew. And I teach ethics. That's good. Hey, send me some stuff. I want to learn more about ethics. I find myself to be an ethical person, but I want to know where that comes from, why we need it. Tell me what to read. Yeah, so none of that stuff made it in the video, and I won't say, like, the guy who's in the video that is coming out is not the one who did that. It was another guy that I just didn't interact with much on camera. Actually, we didn't interact at all on camera, but anyway, that video is going to be really good. It'll be coming out next week. All right, what's the next question? So that's sleepers and low end, Martins and Taylors. No, Martins, Gibsons.
Sanding the bracing in an acoustic to change the tone.
Oh boy.
Bob Weir did it.
Oh, okay. So it was, yeah. This is not for the faint of heart. This is not for anyone that is just like dabbling. This is for someone who really knows what they're doing. And I would say almost always don't do it. Don't do it yourself unless you really know what you're doing. Have you seen Paget guitars in here? I don't think Ben's in here today. But I would doubt. I mean, this is a thing that I think most people, it's a little too aggressive. The etymology, the history, where this is coming from is, so Martin used to do scalloped bracing and forward shifted bracing in the 40s, and then in like 46 or 47 Martin stopped doing this. They did rear shifted bracing, and so basically what they were doing is they were finding that these guitars that sounded amazing, they just weren't lasting that long because they were really faintly built. Guitars have a lot of pressure on them. It's like 240 pounds of pressure, 250 pounds of pressure, and so if you're removing material from the bracing, so they're designed and built to be a thing, and then you modify them. I guarantee this would void the warranty on a guitar, which most people, you're not worried about the warranty. But now there are times that it does make them sound magical. When you scallop bracing in a D28 in particular, or a D18, it makes it louder, more present, more boomy, more sweet, more sustained. It does do some good things to it, but it is there are many things you can do that would make a guitar sound better before you would do such an invasive. Anyway, have I tried the Fishman Aura Spectrum DI? I have a couple years ago. Fishman's not my thing. It just doesn't, it's kind of why, I don't know. I gotta be careful with this. It's kind of in the same way that I'm not a huge fan of like modelers. And because it sounds like a really good microphone recording a really good guitar, but it is not the microphone in front of my guitar, and it's not my guitar. So with my acoustic stuff, I would much rather have something that sounds more like what I'm doing. All right. Sorry, let's go through. So yeah, sanding braces, don't do it. Bob Weir did it, and he knows a lot more about guitars than we do.
All right, next question comes from Zach. Love Collings, but are we going to look back at $9,000 parlors as a fad? As a weird fad? Trends in guitar size.
Man, that's a really good question. So, I also love Collins, whatever, for a triple O, a double O, a single O, all those. So, I think that there's been this boom of smaller body guitars. I mean, look at my Waterloo that I just played. The J185 is kind of that same thing. Like, these have been marketed as, a jumbo for women. Yeah, so I think that the pendulum in the market has swung pretty far to the other direction. So now there's lots of LOOs, there's lots of O size guitars, O size guitars. Now, one thing it's kind of a pet peeve for me. One thing that I do want to clarify is, like, a proper parlor guitar is smaller than a O. So by that definition, most guitars that are being made are not actually parlor guitars. Parlor guitars are exceptionally small. I think that's smaller than 14 inches. So that's a very small guitar. That guy, Kenneth, I can't ever remember his last name, from anyway, Kenneth always plays one of those. The Santa Cruz Firefly, like Rasmus is talking about. Yeah. So, yeah, that's a lot of it. Yeah, we're still getting an error. I don't know why. I'm working on it. I'm getting a new camera tomorrow. That should fix a lot of the problem, because part of what the issue is the camera I'm using is being up-resed and it's being sent out through software. So anyway, get a new camera tomorrow. I'm sorry. But yeah, Santa Cruz Firefly, all these guitars. Now that Santa Cruz, that is an amazingly expensive guitar. Brand new, that guitar was like $8,500. It's Sinker Redwood. It's very cool, but it also is very, very small. And with that, like, it sounds like a small guitar. It is pristinely built, precisely, amazingly constructed. But yeah, so I think the last part of this question, do you think we'll look back on it? I think so. I think the pendulum has swung pretty far. I think we're now at a place where lots of companies are making very small guitars. Now, I don't think it's going to be as crazy. I think the market's going to level out a bit. I think we'll look back on the Santa Cruz Fireflies. I think we'll look back on the O size, like the Larrivee, the really tiny ones that are super expensive. I think we'll look back on those and just say there isn't that much of a place for them. They don't sound that good. But yeah, I think LOOs, that is a really, really comfortable size guitar, and it sounds great. So I think the O and O and OMs, I think those are here to stay, and I think more builders are going to be building more guitars in that size, and I think the Dreadnought's days are numbered. I think that I'm really curious. Yeah, Kenneth Pattengale. Yeah, so he plays an 015, which they reissued them, and they're spruce tops. Anyway, that video hasn't come out yet. That's my video when I went to Groon, and I just lost my mind being blown away by the fact that they reissued a guitar, an iconic mahogany top guitar, and they did it with a spruce top stained dark. I don't want to talk about it too loudly, because that's what got me banned from Martin's Instagram last time. But anyway, okay, so next question.
Next one is tube versus SS, different capo styles, speakers, signal chains, buying pedals.
Oh, wow.
Need versus want.
That's a lot. Okay.
Shoes.
Okay. Yeah. I think that, so the question that I put on Instagram was like, what topics do you want me to cover? So I think I'll just pick that first one. Tube versus solid state. There is room for both, and it really is awesome. So I think that people are I think lots of people were very wrong about the Tone Master Deluxe. If anything, that's been proven by the fact that they doubled down. They launched, 2 years ago, they launched the Tone Master Deluxe Reverb and Twin, and then this year they doubled down and they put out the Super, and then even in the middle they put out like a Oxblood, like a blonde version of the Tone Master Deluxe. I use my Tone Master every day. It is the most approachable, usable, helpful, good sounding deluxe reverb I've ever owned. I've owned a bunch of the tube versions. Tube versions are heavy. They are cumbersome. Just the workflow is just, they're hard to record, they're hard to travel with, they're hard to play out live. This one, it can be whatever volume you want. It's got a DI out. It sounds great. It has different IRs for the cab sims. You can run, I mean, to me, I would, like, it's just easier and sounds better to just plug a microphone cable straight into the back of the Tone Master rather than putting a mic in front of it. You could mic it like another one, but like an old one, but what I have found is I'll use the attenuator on it to just set tone, or to set stage volume for me, and then everything going out to everybody else is just coming out of the DI. So I think that when you look at like the Quad Cortex, you look at the Positive Grid is doing other stuff. What's the new one? The Neural DSP. there's a bunch of stuff in there that we've now been able to capture tube amps in a way that makes it super usable, that you can go out and play. Now, there is still something wonderful about a real tube amp. I mean, proper old tube amps, like the sound, the experience to be in the same room, the smell as those tubes get hot. I mean, it's nostalgia, it's cool. So I think it's both. It's kind of like purists that were upset about photography that went digital. We're now at a place where you can keep these giant tube amps. Like, I want a full-blown 60s, I want a 65 Super that I never take anywhere with me, and if I go out, I would take a Tone Master, because it would be half the weight and way more usable. Yeah, it's like when cars became popular and gas, and you know, all of a sudden you get to have a horse just because horses are awesome, and you get to, you know, so yeah, that's kind of my thought. That's yeah. Anyway, yeah, the Helix stuff is great. Yeah, there's a lot. Daniel asked my opinions on the Vox, the Audio Air GT. I don't know. I haven't played one. Actually, I played one, but it was just for a couple minutes. It was kind of noisy, so I don't really have too much of an opinion on it. I don't love... oh, I have a Yamaha THR as well. It's cool. I like the first version better. I'm selling my my Yamaha THR V2 if you're interested. It's on the website as well. Mad Bart, a 75-watt Music Man. I think the tubes are in it. Yeah, I think tubes are in it. Yeah, those are like so loud, your teeth rattle. But please take care of your ears. I did not take care of my ears. I played big 120-watt tube amps for a long time I played a full stack for a long time in a basement with stone walls and no hearing protection. And now, when a guitar gets too loud, my ears buzz out, and it is not good. So take care of your ears. Okay. All right, let's jump to the next question over here. We got 20 minutes. We don't have to finish, but I like to keep this to an hour so we don't go too long. Ryhard guy says he's coming to Virginia in October. What are your favorite Virginia guitar shops? That's a really good question. There are two. Washington Music Center, right outside of DC. Really cool. I haven't been there in a long time. Really cool shop. Actually, there's three. Picker Supply in Fredericksburg, Virginia is really wonderful. If you're looking for old Martins, they like specialize in ridiculous, like pre-war. I mean, it's like they're on the same tier with like Grun and that kind of guitar shop. Then the other guitar shop that I really like is down in Roanoke, Virginia, which those two, they're pretty far apart. They're probably 4 hours apart. But Roanoke, Virginia, there is the Fret Mill, which is under new ownership. It's a woman who's an amazing player, amazing businesswoman, really exciting for her. So they're good. They're a great Taylor dealer. They're back selling Huss and Dalton. So they're a good place to be. The guitar shop in my hometown exploded. You guys want to see my blown up drum? Yeah, so the guitar shop that was in Harrisonburg blew up. There was an explosion, and so this thing blew up in a natural gas explosion. So that shop is just now kind of getting their feet back under them. But I like those guys a lot. They just don't sell anything used, and they just kind of sell middle-of-the-road Fender stuff and the PRS import stuff. But anyway, so not a great shop in my hometown. Wonder Records is amazing. My friend Elliot down in Harrisonburg. If you're in town, let me know. But yeah. Next question.
Next question is your AD17.
My AD17. Let's talk about this. So, this is the Taylor American Dream. This is brand new, just came out last year. Amazing oven callback in size. This is a Sitka spruce top under the dark finish. I'm still working through this guitar to do a review. Yeah, I'm gonna do a review of this guitar. This guitar has the V-clasp bracing, and what's interesting is this thing looks nothing like Taylor's of the 90s, but it absolutely sounds dead on. It just sounds exactly like just old 90s Dave Matthews, Vertical Horizon, all those. It's funny that that's the same chord progression as not the same chord progression, but anyway, I really like this guitar. I've heard lots of people, I think lots of people are concerned about these guitars. I've heard the same thing, and it feels conspiratorial. That's the word I'll use. There are a lot of people that are like, I see a lot of these for sale used with a cracked top, and I don't know. I don't. It wouldn't make sense for me for Taylor, that is so good at making guitars, to put out a guitar that struggles with top cracks and stuff. So I have no issues with mine. I really like it. The case is amazing. It's the Aero case, so it's kind of a foam, but inside it's this crushed velvet. It's the kind of pinky, really cool rouge colored hard case. So I really like this guitar. I'll put it back here so there's some symmetry back in our lives. But the American Dream guitar is really important, and the reason I bought one is that this is Taylor saying real musicians need a guitar that is reliable, inspirational, really cool features, cool aesthetic, and made in the US with a pickup that can work and just go to every show with you. And so this is the response. So they did say that when they launched this guitar, the AD27, and they do this with a natural top. So there's like 3 versions of this body size, because there's also the Grand Pacific body size. They've said that they were going to launch other ones. I think they were going to launch like a 14 size, which would be their orchestra model. Anyway, I think it's very cool. I love the finish. Now, there are a couple things that I wish it had. Like, it just doesn't have finish around the edge, and it looks like binding. I wish it had binding. That's where, to me, it feels like it could be a little worrisome if that guitar would take a bonk or get hit. But more review coming later on that one. It's a cool guitar.
On the topic of the AD17, Daniel says, are you worried about the black finish? I saw a couple at a Guitar Center with messed up black top and wondered your opinion on that.
What do you mean messed up? Like, what messed up on them, Daniel? I'm not worried about it. It's because it's really cool. It reminds me of, what's that Japanese method of like burning wood and then putting finish over it. I don't think that's what they're doing with this, but you can see a lot of the texture. It's a beautiful thing to see in person. I really, yeah, it's just, I got it because it's just super unusual, and yeah. Jeff says, what's your opinion in the differences between a team-built custom shop guitar and a master build? Late today. Hello from Northern Canada. Hey, Jeff. I'm glad you're here, buddy. So there's 4 or 5 different ways you can build a guitar. You can build a guitar all yourself with a master built process, which is one person building a guitar from start to finish. And so that requires, they are a specialist overall, but it requires that person to be a generalist. They are the same person that is cutting and shaping and doing the heavy woodworking, and then the same person that's also going to be doing the electronics and wiring the pickups. And, you know, if we're talking master built, you're taking like the Fender master built or the Epiphone master built, or that kind of methodology. Then you get to team built, where you have people that are more specialized, but they're building more guitars. And this isn't quite an assembly method, but it's basically saying, like, you have Brian, who does all the CNC work, and then he hands it off to Tom, and Tom is the guy who does all of the finish work. I think that the better products come out of a team build, when you have it broken down to the minimum number of experts at what they do. I've played enough of the master built Fenders that I'm like, they're amazing, but I think if you take it just a step back into just the full custom shop, I think they're a little better. Same thing is true in the acoustic world too. Like, I'd rather have, you know, so, and I love Ben Padgett. I love my Padgett guitar. And there is a breakdown in the fact that one person built that whole guitar. It is an amazing guitar. It is so masterfully put together and all that. The only thing that I'm not like over the moon with is just the finish. It's a French polish finish because, and I completely understand this, because Ben is renting a space. He doesn't have a paint booth. He hasn't done like a full like spray paint or spray finish. I don't know if that's true. I don't want to misrepresent him and his styles. But for me, it would really benefit from like take that guitar and then have someone who is a master painter finish that guitar. So anyway, yeah, the AD17 is a wonderful guitar. I really like it. I'm very happy with it. Now I'm getting to where I'm pretty well full on acoustic guitars. So I'm going to start thinning out some stuff, and I think the channel is going to shift to where I'm buying a lot more for other people and finding things for other people, because I personally have about as many guitars as I need, except for an early 2000s Les Paul Classic or a 70s or 80s white Les Paul Custom, or an early 90s Gibson Dot reissue. Lots of Gibson dreams are happening, or a PRS, a DGT. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so I'm getting to where like I'm starting to like fill out the last bits of the guitars that I really would love to own. So anyway, next question.
Pick guards or no pick guards?
Depends. Sometimes guitars really need pick guards to look aesthetically right and have the proportions right. But other times you would take something away from the guitar by putting a pick guard on it. My Padgett is a great example of that. That guitar just looks right without a pick guard. But my Waterloo on the other side, so my Waterloo is super unique in the fact that it has a pick guard. These don't have pick guards, and when people see them, they wonder what weird custom guitar this is, because mine has a pick guard. And so this is the pick guard from the it's the WLS Deluxe, or the WL14. And so this pick guard is not made for this guitar, and it doesn't actually fit, so the radius of the pick guard is not the same radius as the neck, and so the guy that put this on had to space it out. So anyway, some guitars look right, some guitars don't. Like the other ones, like when you get like a Strat, like if you have some kind of super Strat kind of thing that everything's like reverse mount, and you don't have a pick guard, it's weird. It makes the guitar aesthetically have to do a lot. I don't know, that's a good question. It's all preference. Yeah, I think for me it really depends, but I like the weird choices. So whenever I get a chance to have something more unique, more unusual, I'm gonna go with that. So yeah, that's why this thing had my freaking number. Evan, I'm working. Wait, yeah, we've talked about that. Evan wants me to find him a 60s Guild F30 for a good price. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'll keep looking. I found 2 Guilds this week. Video coming out soon. If you become a patron, you'll get to see that video here soon. Jake says, I would love for you to review an Andrew White guitar. He's also in Virginia. I had one and sold it, and I'm kicking myself. There's a website, mid to high price guitars. All right. I'll check him out. Can you write that down? I'll find him. I'm going to see Showalter Guitars. He's a guy really local here in the Shenandoah Valley, and I'll see him on Monday. I'll check out some of his guitars. All right, let's keep digging. We got to push.
All right, next question is going bonkers comparing D18 to J45 for future purchase. Swaying on the side of D18. Help.
Help!
Help.
Dave, this is Smooth Jazz Dave. This is your question. I love this question, and I want to shoot out these 2 guitars against each other, because I have been on this quest to find, when someone says, what is the guitar that everyone should own, or what is every man's guitar? For me, I think that this is between a D18 and a J45, because on paper they should be really similar, right? They're both spruce tops, they're mahogany back and sides. Now J45s are round shouldered, D18s are square shouldered, and then the biggest difference is the scale length. So the Martin is a 25.5 inch scale length, and the scale length on the D18, on the J45 is 24 3/4 inches. Now that 3/4 of an inch paired with the round shoulder makes the J45 lower tension, more bouncy, more warm in its tone. It just makes it a little more bouncy and playful. The D18 is absolutely a workhorse. Like my Husson Dalton TDM is basically a hot rodded D18. That longer scale length gives your right hand a whole lot to dig into. The guitar feels a little faster, and to me, I think those two guitars are really wonderful. I think from what I know about your style as a player, well, yeah, so Philip with 40 watts says you should have both, which he's not wrong. They're very similar, but I think they also feel very different. So Dave, I think from your style, I think the Gibson, just everything about the Gibson feels like it would probably be a little more, but the D18 is also loud and bright and punchy and more diverse. That's the thing. The D18 is a more diverse guitar. You could play jazz, you could play strummy stuff, you could do fingerstyle. Now the newer D18s have an 1 3/4 nut width, so they're also going to be a little better for fingerstyle. The J45s don't have an 1 3/4, but they're not 1 11/16. They're somewhere in the middle. They're some other fraction that's between those two. I think it's like 1.72 inches if you convert it. But you can't lose with either. The only thing I wish is if you're not stylistically into a natural top, they're J50s. I think the J50s are more expensive, which doesn't make sense. More expensive for a natural top. But maybe the natural top is a higher grade, and that's why they can do it without a finish. Anyway, that is a killer question. I love that question, and I'm going to look for more opportunities to be able to get those two in there. So, all right.
The headstock shapes with love and hate.
Oh, what headstock shapes do I love and which ones do I hate? I feel like I've changed my mind most on the Telecaster, the skinny headstock. I used to hate it. I remember it just like did nothing for me. Like this headstock. This is my 1985-86 pink paisley Tele. I'll do a video on this one this week, and I say that every week. But it took me a long time to be okay with this kind of headstock. It just felt like it was missing something, because the guitar I'd come from is, oh boy, the one I'd come from is this like full fat like CBS style big headstock, which to me this is the coolest. And I just like when I see this, that guitar is cool, and it just has like, I think because this style of guitar just, for me, became synonymous with Tom DeLonge, punk rock, high gain, all that. Because this one, I put the Seymour Duncan Invader back in, which was a mistake. It's a mistake to put a pickup with 18K back into a guitar, because this guitar has no chill anymore. It only does punk rock, which is awesome, but I'm going to change it back to a Seymour Duncan Antiquity here soon. But other headstocks I've changed around, I've like come around to, or I love or hate. Let me see. Love a Les Paul Custom headstock. Just big open book, big inlays, just cool. Headstocks I don't like. Ovation, because I just don't like ovations. Seagull, yeah, don't like those. It's funny how many people didn't like that Iris DF headstock, or the Iris headstock in general. To me, it doesn't bother me. I think it's cool. It's like, to me, it's like unoffensive. Like, I don't know what people would dislike about it, but people were fired up. They did not like it. Lots of comments on that. But anyway, that's a good question. It again, all preference. For me, everything gets tied to pretty much like nostalgia. That's my main motivator, or just thing that I hang on to. Martin headstocks are kind of boring, but they're cool. I'd like, and if you know this part of Martin history, like in the late 60s, the jig that they used to cut out their headstocks was worn out, and so they got more round, and then all of a sudden by the early 70s, they're back to being like good, strong, round or square shoulders. I think if you're building a guitar or designing a new guitar, the headstock must be the most difficult and like the most challenging part of it. Anyway.
All right, next one is favorite chords, shapes, and voicings, and do they change when playing other guitars?
That's a really good question. So, I think this is in Dadgad. Okay, so my favorite chord voicings, and I'll have to tune this guitar because it's in Dadgad. So, like many of you, I grew up playing guitar, especially like in the church and in certain bands. And if you play like in a cover band or anything where you're playing other people's music, it's really easy to get bored. And so I just got so tired of playing just like G, C, and D. And so I started finding, I'll change that first. So I got so tired of doing like that I just had to start finding like new chord voicings, like, or like I just got, so I do a ton of triads, so I'll scoot in a little closer. So for me, I now have them kind of worked out in G, D, and C. I kind of have all these triads that I use a lot in, yeah. So I do a lot of these just, so that's a G, an A, and a B minor, and then up here I have a D. So if you hear that thing that I play, like once you know that, you'll hear the things that I play all the time in YouTube videos. And you come up here to the B minor. So I don't do a great job. Philip, see you, man. But yeah, so yeah, that's my D. And then G, I took these from Jason Isbell, so that song Different Days. He's doing like just a walk down from like G, like an F sharp thing, E minor, D, C. And then when you listen to the record, there's another guitar behind it going. And then, yeah, so what do I have in C? So my biggest one in C is I always do this walk down, like the B over G. A minor 7, and then the biggest one is the F2. So instead of doing an F like a bar chord, I always drop out. I use my thumb over the top. I'm playing an F, and instead of, what is that? Instead of that A, I drop it to a G. So it gives me an F2. I first heard this in a Phil Wickham song. So Phil Wickham has a song called Divine Romance that goes. Yeah, a lot of my stuff playing in G and in C comes from Phil Wickham, like how he voices things. That's awesome. So when I first got married, I was looking for ways to take care of my wife and to like add income to our lives. I was doing my student teaching. I went to school to be a special education teacher, and so after hours, after teaching, I would teach guitar lessons, and I hated it. I just received no joy. I'm not that good at music theory, and I fly by my intuition. Explaining a step-by-step process through something that comes naturally to me wears me out, and I can't handle it. So anyway, I think that might be the last question. Or bridge pins, bone, ebony. I have a set that my friend Jansen sent me that I've been meaning to try. So here are some old brass. There's some brass bridge pins. Okay. I disagree with the premise in which most people buy bridge pins. It's the same. I feel like the same crowd that buys bridge pins are the same crowd that are buying locking tuners. Like, you buy locking tuners because your guitar doesn't stay in tune, and then you put locking tuners on your guitar, and your guitar still doesn't stay in tune. And even if it does, there are many more problems that you could fix before you go spend that bunch of money on locking tuners or bridge pins. So, with bridge pins and stuff, it's probably your guitar is not bassy enough, or it's not bright enough, or it's like you don't like the way your guitar sounds. If you're doing it for an aesthetic, just change them out. I mean, there are tons of cool options for bridge pins, especially with Martin. You can get ones with, you know, like a tortoiseshell dot, or you can get white with a black dot, or black with a white dot. You can do all those. You can add abalone, all that stuff. But I think if you're changing them for the tone of your guitar, you probably should really dig into some new guitar strings. If you still don't like the way your guitar sounds, you need to invest in a good bone nut or a bone saddle. A saddle makes way more sense, because the bone saddle, you're going to hear that the whole time you're playing the guitar. Your bone nut is only going to change the tone of your guitar when it's open. Yeah, that one blew my mind when I realized that a couple months ago. I was like, wait, why are we going to spend so much money on a bone nut if it's for tone, other than just like playability and tuning wise and all that stuff? Yeah, so there are many things you can do to change the tone of your guitar. Yeah, they can have like a J45 with good Tusk saddle or Tusk bridge pins will have a spunkiness that is really fun that it just doesn't have with plastic. But anyway, what do I think about slotted bridge pins? So I prefer them, but there are certain guitars that are awesome. So it takes better fitment to get the bridge pins right. So my Waterloo has them, and months ago, it was in the winter, it was a long time ago, we're walking, my family's doing a hike, and my little boy spits out a little piece of wood. I was like, what is that? And I look at it, and it's a bridge pin. Like, where did that come? We're 40 miles from home. How did this make it from my house? Because I realized it's from my Waterloo. Like, how did it come out? How has he concealed it this whole time? And like, yeah, because if I would have lost it, it's like, that's a $35, $40 set of bridge pins to get like hand-turned ebony bridge pins. So anyway, it was crazy. And the problem is, non-slotted bridge pins, if the friction fit isn't right, they can be a little loose, or if it's winter and the guitar is drier and it gets a little bigger. So anyway, you can lose them. They can be a little stressful. Yeah. All right, we've started. This is the boop. We are beginning our descent. So, is that the last question? That might be the last one.
What type of guitar cables sound the best?
Oh, ones that you make yourself, usually. I'll tell you, let's start with the opposite. What guitar cables sound worst? The cheapest ones that you get, the ones that most of us have, the ones with like pre-crimped ends that you can't change if they break. If you want the best sounding cables, you need to learn how to solder, and you can just get Switchcraft ends. You can cut them yourself. You can make them absolutely custom. The other one is, what guitar cables sound best? The ones that aren't too long. Don't go much farther than 20 feet, 25 feet on a quarter-inch cable, because it's not balanced, and you're gonna pick up noise. You're gonna pick up, if you're in a place with fluorescent lights, So yeah, I'm a strong advocate of get good ends and good cable and then solder them yourselves. It's really not that hard. It is really fun. It is also endlessly frustrating when you solder a pickup or when you solder it and then you realize you didn't put the end on it, and now you have to take it back apart and then put the threaded cover on it. I'm not getting. I thought. Oh, I'm turned around. Fret Level Midnight is still here. Yeah. Jeff says 14 guitars here, never seen locking tuners, or never noticed. Yeah, I don't. If your guitar is not staying in good tune, it's probably your saddle, or it's probably, let's talk Strat or Tele, it's probably how the strings are seated in the bridge, it's probably your intonation, it's probably the fit of the nut, it's probably how you're attaching your strings to the tuners. So to just change, like, oh, it's locking tuners, you're only changing one of the variables that isn't even directly touching where your strings are or are not in tune. Anyway, this is my soapbox. Yeah. All right. I think that's it. So now, I think, hang on, click over one more.
Just check.
Yes. Okay. So we are now entering the final end. So I'm going to give you guys, here's a 20% coupon off coffee. Also, if you use this coupon, I'm pretty sure it just works on everything on my website. So, whoa boy, hold on. Don't buy a guitar with this. But buy any of the merch shirts. You can even do pedals. Use Rise and Grind and it'll give you 20% off. Don't buy a guitar. Be cool. Or I'll just give you your money back. But, so Rise and Grind, get some coffee. It is delicious. Dylan, who you haven't seen yet, Dylan used to work at this coffee place that makes this coffee. It's delicious. It's wonderful. Yeah. All right. And then there's another one. There's some merch, baby. So there are some hats. There's still a couple if you want a hat on this round. Yeah, go ahead and turn that off so I can show the hat here. And so these are awesome. I've worn mine like all last week and this week. Super comfy. And, if my head is basically the size of like a medium watermelon. So I'm at 2 on this. So these hats are made for big boys. So on a normal person's head, you'd have plenty of room, really comfortable. It's a 5-panel, it's a foam front, and then it's these patches that are awesome. So anyway, hats, go check them out. They're $25 with $5 shipping. You can also use that coupon code on the hats if you want. I think there's like 14 left in this first run. Okay, so with that said, let's do some trivia. You guys have hung around. The chat has gone crazy. I haven't looked at it because it stresses me out. I can't keep up with it and talk and be interesting at the same time. Oh, hang on. Don't freak out. It's okay. You're okay. We'll be back. This is why you don't use aftermarket batteries, because they just die at half. Boom. There we go. Okay. We're back. Oh, that was quick thinking, Dylan. Putting the thing up. Okay, so, okay. The voice in the nether. Oh. Dylan. Yeah. Okay. Did you think of trivia questions? Or
no, a few. You caught a lot.
Yeah.
Of the. Here's a few questions here that we missed.
Well, hang on. Let me see them. Okay. Okay. And then aiming for trivia. Which is okay, because so Dylan's not a guitar player, so there are many things that that sneak past. So let me see what just go back through there and let me see. I'll come up with a couple. Oh, okay. Here's a good one. So for the first trivia, you will win a hat if you can answer this question correctly. I will mail it to you. Ideally, if you're in the US or Canada. Don't make me pay like $50 to send you a hat in Dubai. I will, maybe. No. Case by case basis. Okay, so here's the first trivia question. What size guitar is technically a parlor guitar? A parlor guitar is technically what size and smaller? So the first one to get that will get the hat. And right now I need to think of a second question. All right, there's that first one. I think that's the fret level. Got it. Under 00. So fret level. Can you? Oh boy, what email address did I create last week? What did I told people? If you use the form on the website, you can send me a message on the website. Tell me what your address is. I'll send you a hat. We need to get Dylan a guitar. Yeah, Dylan, I got a couple if you want to learn. I won't teach you because I hate teaching people how to play guitar. Yeah. I don't think I've ever talked about that on my channel. I've kept that one close to the vest because I don't want to offend people. Robert Baker is amazing at teaching. He was in here earlier. He might still be. Okay, let me come up with, so what guitar headstock did I say was my least favorite? What is the headstock that I really don't like? I said 2. I think I said 2 about the same. But anyway, either one gets it first. So what is my least favorite headstock design? All right, so David Belcher got it second right. So fret level's gonna pass on his hat. So David Belcher, send me a message through the website. You can go to fill out the form, the Let's Talk form, and let me know where you want a hat. I have to reorder shirts, so I'm not giving shirts. I've got a couple holes. Patrick got it. Yeah, Patrick Ladendecker. How do you say that? Laden? No, probably not Laden. Ben Ladendecker. Yeah, that'd be weird if your brother's name was Ben. Okay, so Patrick got it. It was Seagull. Seagull are the guitars that I said just look. Which, now that I think about it, no, they're different. But Seagull and Iris are somewhat similar. I can see that. People didn't like the Iris headstocks. But anyway. All right. So the 2 winners there were
David Belcher and Patrick Ladendecker.
David and Patrick. Send me your info. Yeah, this is awesome. Okay, you guys are both getting hats. And thanks so much. This was a really fun live show. I feel like I didn't lose a year off of my life, which I normally do, and I'm also trying to keep it with chat and all that. So thanks to Dylan for being here. This video does not happen without my patrons. So thanks, patrons. If you want to become a patron, patreon.com/guitarhunter. But I'm also probably going to launch the join, like the community on YouTube. So anyway. There's also merch in the store. There are guitars in the store. There's a bunch of stuff. And remember to use that coupon code. So anyway, Fret Level says, I'd rather have a Seagull or an Ovation headstock than the Albatross that is the D'Angelico headstock. Those headstocks are... Wait, look those headstocks up. You'll hate them way more. I don't hate them. They're actually kind of crazy. They have like the curvy thing with the metal part. Yeah, man. Yeah, D'Angelicos are weird. I think the biggest thing with D'Angelicos was they used to be amazing. They used to be like really rare, in the 40s, 50s, 60s, like they were really cool in Art Deco. But then they've really changed. And now that they're like a really approachable, guitar that lots of people can own. Anyway, I get that people don't like them. But anyway, I don't dislike them. I hate them. I get that. That makes sense. All right, well, that's a really fun place to leave. Thanks for watching. This has been so fun, and I hope you guys have a great weekend, and you go fill the world with music and friendship. So now the way we close the show is we'll go back to the first slide. Yep, go to that one, and then we'll cue the music. And so with the music, you have to turn the volume back up, move it to the middle somewhere, and then click song. Boom. All right. Thanks for watching. See you guys later. And now click over and now turn my mic.